Next question we're going to concern ourselves with is, how does space exist? And why does space exist? So really two questions. How and why does space exist? So space is the part of my system in which I'm occupying right now. I'm occupying a certain amount of space throughout this infinite of space that I could occupy. And in each moment of time, I'm occupying a different moment in space. So my hands are occupying this moment in space, and 2 seconds later, my hands are now occupying this moment of space, and you're doing the same thing. You are occupying a certain amount of space. And when people are trying to be really mean, they say, hey, you're just taking up space. And if they're trying to be really nice, they say, hey, you're a great use of space. So what does it really mean to have space? Well, I think space is really important because without space, things would be really, really hard to manage. So, I mean, just imagine everything and everyone having no space. People often, you hear the expression, I need my space. Well, if there is no space, everything would be together. There would be no separating anything. And one would argue that it would be impossible to exist, yes, in a physical form. But if you look at things from a spiritual standpoint, you have to wonder, do spirits really need space? And they have those kind of ghost shows, right, with ghosts wandering around, and it's like, oh, hey, that ghost is occupying a certain amount of space in a ghostly dimension. Well, maybe not. It's interesting to kind of wonder, do spirits take up space? And if they don't take up space, it would make a lot of sense as to why we haven't seen them yet, or been able to measure them, or really do anything with them at all. Do they even need energy? Do they take up energy? Probably not. A spirit is probably something entirely different. It doesn't take up any space, doesn't have any energy, isn't measurable. So then how is it? Well, if it doesn't need space, then it doesn't rely on any kind of physical property, which means we're kind of diving a little bit into metaphysics in the sense of there really isn't any physics at all. So it's not even metaphysics. It's the kind of physics where we're not dealing with physics, we're dealing with different kinds of things that operate in different ways. So, in essence, the spirit is operating in an entirely different manner. And we can construct things as far as intelligence goes. You can measure the brain, you can measure everything that happens with it, you can measure the way it thinks, you can measure your body, the way it talks, the way it acts, what's construed by the body, how the body moves through space and time. When we're dealing with the spirit, we're not dealing with a molecule either. We're not dealing with molecules. You can't access the spirit by some kind of spirit molecule in the physical earth, which can cause a lot of illusions to occur. So it's really inaccessible in every kind of form. And yet the concept exists, which is interesting. So in this physical body, I'm able to conceptualize a spirit. I'm able to think about it. I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to explain what a spirit is to you, in the sense of the spirit is no actual physical thing we can even comprehend or measure or interpret. And yet the concept exists. So I find that very interesting. And if you think about back to when I said any concept that exists is existable or could exist, it means that that concept is there and it's somewhere. So it has the capability of existing. Now, we have to ask ourselves really, well, is that true? Of course, it's not something that's possible to be answerable. But if you think about what I said, where everything that can be conceived can exist, then yes, it is true. In fact, everything's true, in a sense. If I were to say that, I remember, I'll go back to the example of what I was talking about before, of, well, nothing exists, or the sense, or the phrase, I am nothing. Could I turn myself into nothing? Yes. I think yes, I could, but I don't want to. So I am still something, but I could be nothing. If I say I am nothing, what I'm saying is false, and yet nothing as a concept is true. So the utterance of my words are false, but nothing as a concept still exists. So it can be conceived, it does exist. There is nothing somewhere. And I would say that nothing is the essence of all of the things that choose not to exist. Whether in an infinite form or a physical form or whatever form it is. And perhaps nothing is simply the sense and the element of it does not exist yet. These things are not right now. They're nothing right now. So if you conceptualize that, there's yet another infinite amount of possibility of existence in a spiritual form.